In today's video, I'm going to have a quick look at what's going on with the virus around the world. We're also going to have a look here at Moderna Inc and what's going on with their stock price overnight again. From there, we're going to have a look at some equity markets and why people are still investing in them at the moment. Hello and welcome to another ACY Securities Market Update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be your host through today's trading journey. Now, to start things off, Brazil has become the fastest growing hotspot for COVID-19. Right now, they're having a fair bit of trouble trying to contain the virus and it is growing rapidly, beyond their control effectively. So it is in a situation that needs to be monitored, especially considering South America hasn't had a lot of testing done and there is not a lot of information for us to go off there. So keeping our eyes close on the ever-evolving situation is going to be important for the near future. From there, there's also some news from New York. New York, who was battling coronavirus very hard, is still doing so today, but they're struggling to really reopen the economy. They've had rising hospital administrations, and because of that factor, it's not enabling them to get to the next stages of easing in their lockdowns. So there might perhaps be a tightening of restrictions coming soon for them. From there, we do have some interesting stuff to talk about when it comes to the rumour mill. Recently, as of this morning, I've had some news come across my desk about China planning to put on more tariffs on Australian goods for export. The ones that are at the top of the list right now seem to be wine and dairy. Specifically, we're looking at A2 milk, which has been the biggest sort of contributor for exports in the dairy side of things to China. Now, A2 stock price has actually fallen by about 40% just at the sound of this rumour. From there are a couple of other things that they are looking at, but hopefully it's not going to end up being the case. There's been no talk about some of the other commodities being on the steel and manufacturing side of things, because actually China actually needs those to continue their growth. But it will be interesting to see how they move forward next. Australia is still not backing down from the idea of getting an independent investigation done, and whilst it is being said that China is not looking towards this perspective, it does seem highly likely that they are actually trying to sort of do a bit of punishment for even suggesting the idea. Now, from there, the next thing we're going to have a look at is Moderna Incorporated. Now, we heard some really good news from them Monday night or early Tuesday morning, basically saying that they had found a vaccine or something that had started to show signs that it was actually working and producing antibodies. Now, whilst that sounded really good in the moment, the sentiment obviously blew the stock price out of the water for Moderna from down at $69 up past $88. They have settled back down. And it's been because people have actually done a little bit more digging into the report and the claims that Moderna have made. And they've kind of looked at the idea that there's an N+8 sort of result here where the sample size has been so small and the rest of the results haven't been presented. We also haven't seen the numbers that have come out. It's really just been words. When it comes to these sort of things, the numbers are more important than what's actually being said. So without the numbers to back up the claims so far, the stock price has fallen again and people are waiting for the next series of reports to come out. So that sentiment or that belief is coming down. We've actually seen it affect stock markets across the globe. S&P 500 has dropped 1% roughly at about the time that people started questioning what was going on with the Moderna Incorporated report. Now from there, we have some interesting stuff to take on equity markets. Now, equity markets have been rising across the board, and it just seems like there's been a bit of a disconnect, but there is a little bit of fundamental explanation behind it I'm hoping I can give you today. The first thing is that we've gone past the first stage of outbreak and the pandemic, meaning that, we have gone past the initial shock that we're in a new, different type of world right now. From there, we've gotten a lot of stimulus that has been supporting not only from a central bank side of things, but also a government side that's been helping prop up these prices a little bit further. So from there, we're kind of taking an idea that perhaps they are outperforming our bond markets and other markets, and people are sort of starting to move their assets across to the equities markets so that they can keep up that value going on. Now, will it continue to go this way? Well, we can't say yes and we can't say no. Perhaps it will, but there are a serious amount of headwinds against the idea of stock prices continuing to rise. The first of these is naturally going to be a second wave of infections where we see global lockdowns occur again. We've just seen that China has started locking down more than 100 million people to try and contain a very small cluster of infections that have occurred. So if we do get extreme measures like that, the chance of a widespread dispersion of COVID-19 for a second time is probably unlikely, but regardless, we have to remain vigilant that it doesn't happen. And naturally, if it does happen, we are going to see some changes on our stock prices. So there's certainly something to be considering in the near-term future, and why there might be actually rising stock markets compared to other equity markets. We've also seen oil coming back up. We've seen demand starting to rise again, which is a good indicator that there's probably going to be some more to come. We've seen China starting to increase the amount of people using cars. And once we exit lockdowns, there are going to be more people using cars than they were public transport than before, purely because to try and stop that transmission of virus and disease, if we do have an outbreak, people are more concerned about getting on public transport. So that's just generally the psychology of the situation. Hopefully, we do see a change on that and we can find some good trading opportunities in the near term. Regardless of seeing that we've got a lot of billionaire investors who are seeing no value in the market, some others are still looking at the idea that perhaps maybe we should be getting in just to keep an eye on what's going on. Now, the news that we've got ahead for today, there's not a lot of high impact news that's coming out. If there is going to be high impact stuff, it's likely to be unscheduled today. So the biggest one that I can really see on there is that the Bank of England Governor Bailey is going to be speaking, and that's at about 12:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And we've also got a slew of different CPI and PPI reports coming out from a number of countries, the UK, Europe, and Canada. So be aware of those, especially if you're trading those markets. Even though they are low impact, a number of them can build up and sort of end up being a high impact event, depending on what the figures are. So keep that in your mind in your trading day ahead. I do hope that you've enjoyed today's video, and that there might be, if you have any questions on anything that you may have seen today or in some of the other stuff, feel free to shoot me an email at talktoal@acy.com. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe this video so you can get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.